Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Around the Boxes. This is, of course, my weekly live stream series where I show you guys my latest comic book pickups and discuss all things comic book collecting. My name is DA of DA Comics. Welcome back to another exciting episode. First episode back after Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody. I still got the lights up. I've been procrastinating taking the decorations down. I'm normally try to be pretty quick after Christmas, but we are here. We are back. Got a lot of comic books to show you. I got my pile here. I got a lot of things to show you, actually. Some comic books and some not comic books, but decent-sized pile of new books this week. It's actually the last 2 weeks because last week I did not show you guys my new pickups because last week's episode, if you missed it, was a special episode. We had some guests on and we talked about Spider-Man No Way Home. So I would highly recommend going and checking that out. We did like a whole podcast-length episode with myself, JP Creations, and 007 Venom of the comic strip 3 fame. So you should definitely go and check that out if you missed it. What's up, Lost Comic Kid? How's it going, man? Nice to see you. But we are back. We are back around the boxes. I'm going to show you guys the comic books that I've picked up the last couple of weeks. I got some stuff for Christmas from my family, so I'll show you guys those. And got all sorts of stuff like that, so all good things. All good things. But how was everybody's Christmas? Let me see. Let me get kind of sorted here. I've got to move my stuff around. Alright, before I dive into my comic book pickups, I wanted to show some, this is non-comic book related things, but some stuff that I did get from some family members for Christmas that are D&D related. So I figured I'd show them here, even though this is a comic collecting show. Similar, it's literature, similar genre, I guess. But first thing I got was actually this book called Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. It's one of the Dungeons & Dragons expansion books. It's actually the last one that I needed. I have every other book they've made. But this just has a bunch of lore about different races in the world of D&D, dwarves, elves, Dwergar, different things like that. And then it has just a bunch of stat blocks of different creatures and things like that you can fight in the game of D&D. So that's a relatively new book. I think this came out a couple years ago, but it was the last D&D book that I did not have. So picked that up and completed my collection. But cooler than that, that's just a new D&D book. It's cool. But this other book I wanted to show you because it is more in the vein of collectibles, which is obviously what the comic books are. So this book, specifically, I saw it at a comic book store, and I saw it up on a shelf, and I was like, whoa, that's awesome, I want that. And I ultimately did not get it, but my fiance was there with me, and she saw it. And so she coordinated with my mom, and they got this for me for Christmas. But it's a really, really old D&D book. It is Deities and Demigods, TSR Presents. Now, what's cool about this book, first of all, it's published by TSR, which is the original company that created D&D. So this is all the way back from, like, the 80s. But what's really cool about this, from a collecting standpoint, is back when D&D was first created, back in the 80s, there was a big satanic panic. The same thing that happened in a lot of the other pop culture hobbies. Comic books had their own satanic panic back in the 50s. Magic the Gathering had satanic panic in the 90s. D&D had it in the 80s. And so what a lot of people would do is they were taking these D&D books, a lot of parents, specifically this one, which is literally called Deities and Demigods, so you could understand why they might think it was sacrilegious. Really, it's just myth on a bunch of different, myth. Like, it's Greek gods, Egyptian gods, Norse gods, different things like that. But they would take these books and burn them. So it's kind of rare. It's not super rare, but it's decently rare because a bunch of these books got burnt back in the day. So I saw this at the comic store and I thought it was super, super cool, and I wanted to get it. Not really for the actual game, but just as kind of to have it and collect it as a cool collectible. So that's really, really cool. That's an awesome pickup. It's kind of an old Dungeons & Dragons book. that is worth a little bit of moolah. So that was definitely very exciting to get that as a gift for Christmas. But those are the two D&D books that I wanted to show because they're kind of collectibles in that sense. But from there, I guess I can show you guys some of the comic books that I've been picking up. As always, we've got a mix of new books, some back issues, and I got some older books this episode as well. A really, really good pickup that you guys will wait and see. So, first book that I picked up, I think this was last week. It's Kang the Conqueror number 5. This is, of course, the last issue in the Kang miniseries. I think it brought it to a good close. I really enjoyed this series. I think it helped to dive into the character of Kang, and it was written very well. So I really enjoyed that. The cover is awesome. I mean, great cover art there. But all in all, I definitely enjoyed it. I would highly recommend picking it up if they release it in trade paperback format. If you missed these 5, I would just pick it up as a book for reading purposes. Unless you really want to collect the individual issues, then you could pick these up. But overall, rate it pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was solid. And I learned a lot more about Kang as a character, which is obviously good because he's about to become very, very relevant, both in the new event called Timeless, but also in the MCU, of course. He's coming in as the next big bad, so that'll be really, really cool to see. But next book I picked up this week, and that is Devil's Reign 2 of 6. I love the purple cover. I think it's very, very nice. Devil's Reign is turning out pretty good. It's an interesting concept. I enjoyed this issue featuring Ben Reilly fighting with Taskmaster and Whiplash. And then, of course, the heroes kind of rallying and making a plan for how to deal with Kingpin. So definitely an interesting read. I'm excited to see where they kind of go with it. And they're obviously setting up Dr. Octopus to be pretty important in the story as well, which is nice to see because he's been kind of gone for a while, and now he's going to be in this, and he's going to be relevant in The Amazing Spider-Man. So it's exciting to see him kind of back as a villain, no doubt because of Spider-Man No Way Home. They're trying to kind of work him back into the comics a little bit more to capitalize on his relevancy. They always do that. They always do a storyline with the villains from the movies when they come out, Did they do a Mysterio comic book back when Far From Home came out? I can't remember if they did or not, but I assume they did. Anyway, doesn't matter too much. Next book I picked up, we got Black Panther issue 2, Legacy 199. I really enjoyed this. I said it with issue 1 that I was excited to have a Black Panther run with a new writer because Ta-Nehisi Coates is a great writer, but I was having trouble following his run when I did try to pick it up. So this has been pretty solid and easier to read as a new reader to the Black Panther series. So I'm really enjoying it, and I like the way it's written. It's written pretty. What's the word? It's written pretty simply, but I don't know the right word to say. But I've been enjoying it. It's basically all I can really say. There's not much to say. It's an interesting premise. These villains that they're introducing are super intriguing, and I definitely want to know more. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next issues to continue reading that. But I'm excited to have a Black Panther run that I can actually pick up and enjoy because I really like the character. And speaking of Black Panther, something that's been talked about a lot on Twitter right now is this whole concept of recasting T'Challa. A lot of people are saying that they should recast T'Challa and that it would not be disrespecting Chadwick Boseman's memory. It would be making sure that the character can live on. I'd have to say that I agree with that. I think that they probably should recast T'Challa. I think that's probably what Chadwick would have wanted because obviously, I mean, it is immensely heartbreaking that Chadwick Boseman passed so tragically, but the character of T'Challa stands for a lot more, and I think that given that T'Challa has such a future in the MCU, I think it would probably be more important to cast a new actor to give them a new opportunity to play such an iconic role, and really to pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman's performance, who's obviously, no one can doubt that Chadwick Boseman is the original T'Challa, but it's not like they're recasting him because they wanted to recast him. They're recasting him because they have to. I think that they probably should do that. Who knows if they will? It might be too late in the process for Black Panther 2 for them to decide to do that, but I do think that they should. I think that would probably be the best course of action, rather than trying to make Shuri Black Panther or trying to make M'Baku Black Panther. They should just continue with T'Challa. My personal casting, I would say John David Washington. Let me Google his name here. I think they should cast John David Washington. I think he would be a good T'Challa, personally. But I don't know. I liked him in Tenet, and I think he's a great actor. But, whoever they cast, I think they should cast someone. So we'll see what they do, but that's my thoughts on that going on right now on Twitter. The other thing that's been happening on Twitter is, of course, make The Amazing Spider-Man 3, which I've been saying since the beginning. So hopefully they do that. I hope they make more Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. Don't take away from the Tom Holland movies, but make the Andrew Garfield movies. I think that would be big. The next comic book is Venom, number 3. Another really lame cover. And I've said this every single issue that has come out in this run. These covers are garbage. They do nothing to sell me on this comic book. If I was not already picking up Venom and I was just looking at the comic book shelves and I saw this comic book, I would not pick it out. It is not interesting. It does not intrigue you at all. It's just like, oh, here's a person and the Venom symbiote. The comic book itself, the story itself, is actually pretty good. It's not as good as Donny Cates' run so far, but that's a pretty high bar, so can't really compare it. But I don't know. It's interesting, but I'm really only picking it up because it's Venom. So I really think they have a ways to go before I'm really giving them 5 stars. I think they really need... I'm just not a fan of this artist. I don't like his covers. I don't really like his interior art. I really want them to change it up. Personally, I just think it doesn't really fit the art style that I think of for Venom. It's kind of a boring art style, and I kind of want something a little bit more interesting, I guess is how I would say it. But going from there, the more important comic book, The Amazing Spider-Man 82. Love this cover. I love how they've been getting really creative with the art on these covers. This issue was very strange, like a total 180 genre-wise. This is like a horror story, but it was actually really good. And I kind of like that they're doing that. They're kind of getting back to making each issue an individual story, or sometimes it's a 2-parter, but it feels a lot like if you were to go back to like the 60s where, at most there would be a 2-part story, and it was usually just one-offs each issue. Feels like that's kind of what they're doing with Beyond, and I kind of like it. I'm actually enjoying it. But this one was specifically about Peter in the hospital and Mary Jane. Love to see them together. Please keep them together. I swear, if after Beyond they bring in a new writer and the first thing he does is break up Peter and Mary Jane, I will riot, because oh my gosh, they should just stick together, and I really hope they do. But this one was really good. But the next one was Amazing Spider-Man 83, Legacy 884, and wow, this is easily my favorite issue in Beyond. What an incredible comic book. I'm actually going to open it up because I want to show you, first of all, the writing in this was incredible. I loved the kind of... The art is great. The writing is great. I loved the metaphorical, like, dream sequences. I mean, first of all, starting right off on the splash page, the rippled water with the eyes of Spider-Man. That's so cool. It's just kind of a reflection. And then going in through the issue, you have Peter in the hospital. And just look at some of this art. I mean, that is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And this is him kind of struggling. It's like metaphorically, it's like dream sequence, him struggling with his spider sense. And then, just some of that art is just so incredible of his spider sense leaving. and then he feels a lot better, and he actually sneaks out of the hospital to go be Spider-Man. Don't do that. And just the story that follows, he gets into a fight, he ends up getting beat up, and then there's kind of this dream sequence of young Peter Parker with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and some of that art is also just incredible. I love the representation of it, the pep talk by Uncle Ben. I mean, this art there representing his spider sense is just so good. It's just absolutely incredible. Now, I read this issue, and I was absolutely wowed by it. The whole time I was reading, I was going, wow, this is really good. And then I get to the end, and I start reading the notes at the back to find that this entire issue was written and drawn by Patrick Gleason. So, absolutely got to give him some credit. I think he's probably the best creator on the Beyond run right now, because he wrote this issue, which I thought the writing was incredible, and he drew the issue, which is just massive kudos. So while I was reading this and realizing that this was my favorite issue in the Beyond run, I realized that it was all basically made by one guy. I mean, obviously there's colorists and editors and a lot of other people who work on a comic book, but he kind of did the heavy lifting on that. So absolutely got to give him credit. It is absolutely deserved, and I think he's writing the next issue as well, so I am very much looking forward to that. But this is easily my favorite issue so far. I wish it had a better cover. It's kind of a lame cover for how good of an issue it is. I feel like he could have done a much better cover, like with the spider sense and him kind of separated. I think it could have been a really beautiful cover, but he was probably busy drawing the art for the entire interior of the comic, so didn't have time to make a great cover. But it's very good. I'm hoping that maybe after Beyond it'll just be Patrick Gleason as the main writer. I think that would be pretty cool. Main writer, an occasional artist, or maybe cover artist. That would be really interesting to have the next creative run be him writing and doing covers, and then have a different artist doing the interiors. That would be super interesting, but definitely won me over on him. I wasn't sure what to think about Gleason, because they talked him up a lot, and I'd seen some of his art, and his art's good and things like that. But this, I think, really sold me on him as a creator. But from there, I want to go into some of my back issues that I picked up. Continued getting more modern era back issues, just trying to fill in my collection. So we got Amazing Spider-Man 501. Which is another one I did not have. I got each of these for like $2 or $3. We got 502, kind of a silly cover, but got 506, which is the Book of Ezekiel, Chapter 1. We got 507, which is Chapter 2. 508, which is Chapter 3. So continuing to get more of those J. Michael Straczynski, John Romita Jr. Era of comic books, which is an era I really like. So definitely enjoying those. Now, last couple books are some back issues that I actually got for Christmas. These first couple are a couple Bronze Age books that were in my... actually, I forgot one back here as well that I want to show you guys. Adam, did the bag and board come with? No, they did not come with bag and boards. I buy my bags and boards and stick them in. Well, some of the back issues do come in bags and boards, but they're usually kind of old. So I tend to just change them out anyway, because polypropylene goes bad after a little while. So it's generally good to rebag your comics every couple of years. So generally when I buy back issues, I'll just put them in fresh polypropylene bags and boards. And then if they're Silver Age or more expensive comics, I'll try to put them in Mylar because those display a lot better and they last a lot longer. So I buy 100 boards and 100 bags at a time, and I just rebag them as I go. But this first thing I got for Christmas, I almost forgot to show. But this is kind of a unique thing. My mom found it somewhere, I think at an antique store, and just got it for me. But it is Giant Superhero Team Up. This is a massive comic book. For scale, here's your standard comic book. It is a massive comic, specifically featuring a bunch of the Marvel heroes: Spider-Man, Thor, Hulk, Thing, Captain America, Daredevil. It is from 1976, So kind of a throwback. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I might just put it on the wall somewhere because it's not going to fit in any of my boxes. But that's one thing that my mom got me for Christmas. But putting that back over there. These next two books, these Bronze Age books, were stocking stuffers. They were in my stocking for Christmas. So we got Marvel double feature with Captain America and Iron Man. It's an interesting book. I'll add it to the collection. It's not necessarily a series I collect, but I mean, I'll take it. It's cool. Reminds me of Tales of Suspense because it's Captain America and Iron Man. And then this one is The Amazing Spider-Man 183. Nothing crazy, but I did not have this issue, so it's adding to the collection a book that I did not have, but from the 70s as well. So nice Bronze Age pickup. But this last comic book that I picked up is honestly the best pickup I've had in a few weeks. My mom had actually seen this at an antique store. Now, my parents know what I collect. They know I collect The Amazing Spider-Man, and I've told them to keep an eye out because my mom goes antiquing pretty regularly. I've told her to keep an eye out for any that are 12 cents because those are, Silver Age, and those are the good ones. And so she'll occasionally text me and be like, "Oh, is this one good?" And usually they're not. But she, a couple months ago, texted me a picture of this comic book, and she was like, "Is this a good one?" And I was like, yes, it is a good one. How much is it? Because I was thinking it was going to be like $5. Like, I thought she just found this gem for $5, but it was not. It was actually a more fair price for what it is. So I was like, oh, that's a cool comic book, but it's expensive or whatever. And then went on. Well, little did I know she actually did get it for me as a Christmas present. So this is an awesome pickup. I was very, very excited about it. This is a book that I have wanted for a long time, so I'm really excited to add it to the collection. This is The Amazing Spider-Man 66, which is a beautiful Mysterio Silver Age cover. Now, this copy is in really good condition. It displays really well. Colors are really good. I mean, I'm terrible at grading. If I had to guess, I would say at least 6.0 would be my best guess, but that's a rough estimate. I am definitely not an expert at grading, but it looks really, really, really good. I mean, you can see it on the camera there. So obviously a great pickup with Mysterio having been in Far From Home a couple years ago. This is a pretty sought-after comic book. And the price that she got it for was a pretty good price. She actually talked him down from the price they listed, so she got it for a good value. But awesome Silver Age book. This is a hard one to find for a good price because everyone sees Mysterio plastered on the cover and goes, "Oh, okay, cool. I can charge a lot of money for this because he was in a movie." And that's the problem with Silver Age Spider-Man books these days, is they're so dang expensive. I mean, the prices have shot up so much in the last 5 years that, collecting Silver Age now compared to when I was collecting them as a kid, I mean, it's so much harder now. So I was very, very excited to get this comic book because that is definitely an awesome pickup and a great addition to the collection. So very, very excited about that. Love a good Silver Age pickup. But I'm looking to buy some more Silver Age books soon, so we'll probably have some more Silver Age pickups in the coming weeks. But that is all of my new additions to the collection this week. Obviously, the highlight, if I had to pick a favorite, my favorite new book is definitely the most recent Spider-Man issue. This was definitely my favorite new book this week, and then obviously favorite pickup being the 66. Now I need to get 67 and have the two-parter. And aside from those, if you missed it at the beginning of the episode, I also really, really liked the Deities and Demigods D&D collectible book because that is also an awesome pickup. So I had a great Christmas. I love and appreciate my family so much for all of those gifts. Yeah, that's about it for today. I wish I had more stuff to show off. Well, not show off, but I wish I had more stuff to talk about, but that's about it. So it's a little bit shorter of an episode today, but we don't really have much to dive into. I didn't really get to plan much for this episode. We did not have a new Webheads this week because we were skipping a week for the holidays. So we will have a new... the next episode of Webheads will be coming out this Monday with episode 4, diving into Amazing Spider-Man 16, Annual 1, and 17 through 19. So if you want to tune in to Webheads on Monday, you should check that out. If you haven't checked it out at all, you can head over to the channel right here and go down to Webheads and start from episode 1. I highly recommend it if you are a fan of Spider-Man comic books. We're having a lot of fun over there, so definitely go and check that out. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, if you haven't yet, go and check out the last episode of Around the Boxes. We had some guests on the show. We had JP Creations and 007 Venom on to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. So I would appreciate it if you guys could go and check that out. But with that said, I am going to wrap things up here. So thank you for watching. Peace out, Adam and Lost Comic Kid. Appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat. And I will see you guys on Webheads on Monday and then back for Around the Boxes next Wednesday. Peace out.